in the state of Alabama for our public institutions. Why is the Republican Party wanting to ban DEI on our campuses?
I think the big part of our discussion is should taxpayer funding be used to push social agenda? And I think the answer is no to that from the top. So to me, it's more about the proper role of government and how government interfaces with the public and where taxpayer money is funded.
So these are
social agenda.
So Alabama doesn't support including other people? What about safe zones?
What about minority groups?
What about all of us students here
What about the
who are
women in
saying
Zizzer?
that DEI
What about
helps
international
us?
organizations?
And what about, what I heard yesterday from the chairman of your college group is that DEI is racist and that it's required on our campuses. That's what I'm hearing.
I think the question is it inclusive to force society,
Who's being forced?
taxpayers, to use their money to pay for something they don't agree with?
Taxpayers. Well, I think those things I don't agree with all the time.
If you have a diversity, equity, program that you want to run a student group, that's not being bad.
You don't have to agree to keep people safe.
Right. You don't have to agree to keep people safe.
We pay for the military.
Yeah,
We keep people safe.
Well, okay, so
I don't necessarily agree with half of what the state of Alabama spends their money on.
so would you
why should I have to
advocate for
pay
defunding the
taxes?
military?
No, I wouldn't advocate for defunding DEI either.
Right. So, all right. So, if you create a social agenda, and you push a social ideology, whether it's conservative or liberal, I think that's outside of the proper role of government to fund or to push. Like, government should be neutral. They should be the entity that's a referee, if you will. And so, if you cross that line, you start pushing a social agenda either direction. You move outside of the proper role of government.
If government should be
So-
equal, then why
so-
do we push it so much?
If that's the case, and y'all's problem
Well,
is
it's also
with
pushed to the left. Like, you see the Democrats pushing more and more to the left, and you see we're actually, as a society, becoming less and less comfortable with open dialogue and the ability to communicate and to share.
That's why I have a DEI.
And that's why I stopped to talk to you. Like, it's important to me that we have that ability to talk
No, for
about
sure.
the specifics, right?
And safe
I think
zones.
we all want to have a discussion about the political issues impacting us, right?
Yes.
We
Yes.
all want to have a discussion. The governor said yet last week we need to learn to disagree better, and I think we couldn't agree more.
Yes.
We need to learn to disagree better.
Yes, sir.
Disagree
And-
better.
And
listen to the people.
and what
Right now, y'all not listening to us. We come in droves, all in agreement that we don't want this, but y'all still pushing it. When we have hundreds of people, and you have two people.
If you look at the actual polling, well, I'm actually not here for this. Like, I'm on my way past. I was at another meeting, and I'm just passing through. But I'm glad to talk to you about this. But if you actually polled the people of Alabama and you ask them the questions, you would actually
I'm
the
a
majority
University of
will
Alabama
actually.
student from out of state. I don't get polls, but I'm still I'm still at the University of Alabama, and it still impacts me.
Can I ask you a question? You said that the problem is state funds, but the bill also bans universities from applying for private funds for DEI programs. So if the problem is state funds, why is the bill
If it's-
banning
If
grants?
it's a state-funded school, it still comes with. Look, I'm going to say this: I'm not a fan of a lot of government strings. I think government uses strings to control people a lot, whether that's,
Well, that's
for
what
public
y'all do now.
education with the federal government, or whether it's. So I think the question goes back to.
Y'all are literally trying to control whether or not colleges are allowed to have DEI programs on their campus.
If they take state funding. And-
But
You know, as a
state funding
student, I
goes to
can put a
many
lot
more
of
programs
things
than just DEI.
What makes
And
social
sometimes
programs
these
liberal
DEI
or
programs
not?
aren't even funded.
I think it's the proper role of government. Like, we should not have a government that is funding things that are conservative or liberal. Like, look, if I was in here advocating for, say, colleges should have pro-life organizations on campus that are funded by the state, you'd be opposed to that, right? How many of you would support that?
Why are we equating?
Why is one side okay and the other not?
Can I ask you, why are we equating a pro-life political agenda with the agenda of keeping minorities safe on our campuses? Because that's not a political agenda. That's not a social agenda.
I will end with this. If you're looking for a group or a party who defends minorities, you're looking for the Republican Party.
Oh, come on.
Our record is clear.
This makes me a statement.
I listen to you.
Listen to this for 1 minute.
We can listen.
If you look at history, if you look at history,
We can
if you
listen.
look at history, Lincoln was a Republican.
Make sure you keep a pathway.
You know, the media is going. We'll judge what he says. Let him say what he wants to say, because we can judge what he wants to say afterwards. Because I'm gonna just preface what he's gonna say. A lot of it might not be true, and we got cameras. Everybody will see that afterwards. Let him say what he wants to say.
Well, it's going to be true because look, the Republican Party in the 1860s stood against slavery. We were the party who stood for individual rights and freedoms. Right, one. In the Civil Rights Movement, it was the Republican Party who stood side by side with the Civil Rights Movement, defending people's rights and freedoms and their constitutional rights to be free.
What do they do to
Right. Now, so today, in our argument the whole time, whether it was in the 1860s or whether it was in the 1860s or 1960s, our argument was the same. We should look at people as individuals and not based on the color of their skin. And we still look at that. Individual rights, defend people's individual rights, their freedoms, keep them safe, help them have a brighter future, whether that's economically, whether that's the border, wherever that is, defend people's rights and freedoms. That's our message. That's what we have stood for 200 years. That's where we stand.
Excuse me, can I ask you something?
I do have to run.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna keep you this.
But, yeah.
Then how come the 1964 GOP nominee, Senator Goldwater, was so firmly against the Civil Rights Act? How come Senator Thurman switched from the Democratic Party to the GOP in the 60s?
Did you realize that the majority of the Civil Rights Act was passed by Republicans? So, yeah.
Along with
in
Northern
Alabama, I
Democrats.
was talking
It
about
was,
Alabama, and in Alabama, George Wallace was a Democrat, not a Republican. The Republicans were side by side with the Civil Rights
Well,
movement.
it's
as we
y'all's
defended people's
representative
rights.
saying that George Wallace
George Jr. was a
isn't
Republican.
racist.
George Jr.